Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Ball Watching, a St. Louis City SC podcast sponsored by Hoffman Brothers. In 2024, we love Hoffman Brothers. We're going to talk about them a little bit here soon. Justin, I was leaving the gym this morning, though. Funny story. I know I texted you this, but these guys, man, no days off. There was a Hoffman Brothers truck in the Lifetime Gym parking lot. I mean, who do you want working for? You want the guys that are working out. The guys that are taking care of themselves, taking care of their bodies. I love to see it. And obviously, I still see them everywhere in St. Louis. I know you have a story up there right now of the whole row of Hoffman Brothers trucks. It's classic.
Yeah, dude. I went for a little jog this morning and a walk, and I went by their office, and I was like, this is an insane fleet of trucks and cars. And the guys were just rolling in. I mean, it was early. It was still like before 7 a.m. So they were just rolling in, getting ready to hop in and just go all over St. Louis. If you guys haven't noticed them, you're going to start to notice them. Just like as we're talking about it, you see them, the big white trucks, the big Hoffman sign. Give them a shout out when you see them.
You should. So, Justin, we didn't do the five-a-side last week, I don't think, because we talked about MLS Go, which is cool, but don't have a five-a-side traditionally for this week. But I did want to run this by you because this has been in and around the news recently. Obviously, this fan base loves to eat up any sort of transfer rumors because we need to sign all these superstars. And I'm saying that very facetiously, but there is some rumors swirling around. I've put some DMs out to some real in the knows to see if there's any legs behind this. But as anyone that's in the soccer world might know, there is a big free agent coming available at the end of this year. There's plenty, but a big name in Marco Reus, who is a long time, I think, one club player at Borussia Dortmund. He's been there for his entire career. I want to say, Justin, fact check me if I'm wrong, but he's turning 35 at the end of May this year, and he's becoming a free agent after this season at Dortmund. So no transfer fees involved. He has no intention. They're not going to sign him or re-sign him. He's not going to go to a Bundesliga rival. He doesn't want to go to Saudi, apparently, either. So you start to wonder, where is the next best spot for him? Because he's not retiring. And so there has been mention of MLS clubs, and specifically, according to Bild, apparently, which is a German publication, I believe, they would potentially see him, considering St. Louis City, especially because of Roman Berkey and the connection they have from their time spent at Dortmund together. And he'd be willing to guide him in his move across the Atlantic. So, Justin, I want to take both angles on this because this is, by the way, way bigger to me than like even the Roberto Firmino rumors that we heard about last year. Like, this is Marco Reus. Like, he is one of the best to do it in terms of Germans, I believe. So let's talk a little bit about it, Justin. What were your initial reactions kind of seeing that?
Quick fact check. So he did not do his entire career at Borussia Dortmund, but he has since 2012. Before that, he was at Rot-Weiß Aalchen, which is another German club. That's from 2007 to 2009. And then Gladbach from 2009 to 2012.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
But that's so early when you think about it. So 2012, this man is only 34. He's born in 89. So 2012, he was 23. So since then, no, not 23. What is that age? What is that math, Jake?
89 to when?
89 to 2009. So there's 20 years. Yeah. So 23 years is when he left. He left when he was 23, and he's been with Borussia Dortmund ever since. And so while he's been at Borussia Dortmund, 292 appearances and 119 goals. Yes, we will say that he has gotten a little bit older. We talk about him being 34 years old, has fallen off a little bit. I think when you go and look at his transfer value, he still has a very high transfer value, and it did get up to $50 million at one point in his career. That was actually a couple points. So back in 2005, it was at $50 million when he was 25 years old. And then in 2019, just the age of 30, he had a $50 million transfer price. Currently, it's at $7 million euros. This is all euros, by the way. But, it's well-deserved. When you look at the stats about him, two-time footballer of the year for Germany, three-time player of the year in the Bundesliga, most recently the 18-19 season, two-time German Cup winner, three-time German Super Cup winner, and he's taking Borussia Dortmund to the Champions League final, which will be up against either Real Madrid or who's the other one? Sorry, Bayern. And they're playing as well. So we're going to find out who he will be playing there. Yes, he's not leading the team per se anymore, but he is still getting minutes in these games. And if everybody's like, I've seen a lot of different things. Like, I don't know if Marco Reus fits the system. I don't know if it's really in Lutz's plan. And I know we're not like a need to sign big names kind of team. Screw it at this point, especially the way we were just talking about Klaus. Sign an exciting dude, spend some money. We're balling on a shoestring budget right now. Why not take a chance on this guy, sign him for a 1.5-year deal, just like what's left on Berkey's, and let's go.
Yeah, no, I mean, I want to put a little bit of water on those that have gotten hopes up. Again, to tempt a player of that ilk over to St. Louis, I think would be a tough ask. I think the only reason we have anything to stand on is because Roman Berkey and Lutz. Those two connections, I think, take us pretty far, honestly, much further than any other link, I think, would go. I think it's got to be the right term, like you mentioned on the deal. He's probably looking for a longer term. This is probably his last contract, you'd think, right? He's going to be 35 in the end of May here. He's probably looking for that last deal to see him over the line and retire happy. So is he looking for all the money in the world? I don't really necessarily think so. I think he's looking to play and be a part of something special to round his career out. So there are angles to this where I could see something like this, especially a move to the MLS in general, making sense. But for zooming in on St. Louis, if the term is right, if we're not going to be bogged down by a 3-year contract on him, knowing that he's aging and his best years are behind him, I'm okay with looking into options that are under that. Like you said, a 1.5-year deal, I think would be perfect because you get him when he's done with this season and you move into the next year and you get him for a full year, see how it goes. And if it doesn't work, doesn't work. You're a free agent, you move on. But I don't think he's going to be looking for this huge salary. And he's not going to take nothing either, right? He's going to take somewhere. He'll be a DP. I would imagine, coming into this league, or I don't know, they'd have to get really creative with that. But yes, to Justin, to my last thing on the system, and he's not a fit. He absolutely does not fit the system. But when you have a chance to sign a player of this caliber, we talked about, I literally tweeted out last night, Justin, like someone that is a killer on your team. You break the bank for it sometimes. You break the system a little bit for it sometimes. Look at what's happening in Inter Miami, for example. They have their own system. Messi exists outside of that. And he contributes so much to their success, and they make up for it in how they play and the personnel around him. I have no doubts that we could do something similar, at least for a short amount of time, because if he's scoring goals, if he's providing assists, if he's providing these high XG chances for Klaus, for Alm, for whoever that might be, or Toykert, if we sign him as well in front of net, who cares? You know what I mean? If he can give that output, which he's known to do, he's right now still at the age of 34, against all attacking midfielders and wingers in Germany right now. He is 90th percentile in non-penalty XG created. He's 91st percentile in assists. He's 92nd percentile in non-penalty XG plus expected assisted goals. His pass completion rates in the 85th percentile. Even his tackles are pretty solid for that in the 94th percentile. So he's still got it in him against really, really good players. So he's not necessarily, I thought he was injury prone. He's had some in his career. This year, he's just kind of just been pushed out by better players, which, hats off to them. I think if there is any chance that he would come to here, I would compromise if I'm Lutz, if I'm Carnell, on our principles and, principles on the field. I'm not saying your principles off the field, but principles on the field, how we like to play, because it's just not often you get the chance to sign a guy like this. And if you get it and he's interested, I would love to see us really explore this. Justin, percent chance. Where does it stand for you today of this actually literally him signing and coming here at the end of the summer or whenever his contract expires?
I'm still going to keep it low because I will say, Jake, I do. The one thing that, like you already said, a silver lining is having Berkey back there, a former teammate of his for a long time at Dortmund. And I think the one thing, though, is like when all these guys that are coming over, you always see it. They want to go to LA. They want to go to New York. They want to go to Miami. St. Louis isn't the prettiest place in the world, but if Mr. Roman Berkey can say, hey, have you ever had a toasted ravioli? You ever had some Imo's pizza? Get ready to learn your order, buddy, because you're coming here. I'll take it.
I would too. I would give it, after all that fun and hopium I just put in there, I would give it a 5% chance of happening.
That's what I was going to say, 10. Yeah.
I love how much time we spent more minutes talking about the subject than the amount of percent chance that we just gave it for happening. Well,
it's an exciting topic, guys. I mean, if for anybody, I understand, and I know it's a tough one, and we're probably going to get some flack on people just saying like, well, what about our system? Like, we love our system. We need to stick with our system. Like, if you have a chance to sign someone like this, the system can work with him in it. I understand he's getting older. He's not going to be the highest pressing guy, and we're not going to be energy drink soccer exactly with Marco Reus at the top of the field, but also put a little challenge in there for Joao Klaus. We already talked about that. A guy has not been supporting us in the way that we thought. Marco Reus can do that.
Also, since when did system become more important than winning? I know system is the long term. You want to have that in place. We're not going to sacrifice the whole thing by just going out and getting one guy that doesn't necessarily fit it. entirely. You can make do. So I like what you said the other two. You can have both in a way. So let's kick into something that's actually more probable for us. And before we get to the preview, Justin, Berkey was named, speaking of, to the Matchday 12 Team of the Week in goal starter out there. MLS Power Rankings came out. We moved from 17 down to 19, blah, whatever. Chicago, our opponent for this weekend, and our preview subject matter this week is number 27. So relishing or languishing down there at the bottom. It's a good time to play Chicago.
Absolutely. I mean, we've already, and we'll talk about the games they're coming off of, but also it's a good time for us as well as we look into the injury report. As of yesterday,
yep.
Leuven and Blum are both practicing with the team, the full team, and Yarrow worked out by himself. So everybody is kind of progressing in that sense. And it's good to see all those guys starting to come back. So I do think that when you look after this, Jake, we got to play, and we're not going to get too far ahead of ourselves, but LAFC next Wednesday. Then we go to Cincinnati. Then we're home versus Seattle. Like, this is a tough stretch coming up, and it'd be great to have a full squad.
No, I agree. And it's so, I mean, because those are two central midfielders with Leuven and Blum. And I mean, we would really do well to have a little more depth in that space this part of the season, especially. So, Justin, talk us through Chicago in the matches that we played against them last year, because it was two in very quick succession, like days apart.
It was back-to-back, both at Soldier Field. I wish I could have made it up for that week. I don't know where the hell I was. But the first one was the U.S. Open Cup. We lost 2-1. I would say the main high point, just glossing over these pretty quickly, we played the B squad. Lund, Watts, Pedro, and Jensen all started, while Chicago started the majority of their starters. They scored in the 3rd minute and then again in the 75th, and then Miggy got one back for us in the 90th +3. Then the next game was the actual MLS regular season game. So we lost 1-0. Rafael Chizikos came on injured for Carlos Terán in the 34th minute, and he scored 6 minutes later in the 40th. Most notably, Jake, the one thing I kind of forgot about, this was the Johnny Nelson red card game. We were never the same. Johnny was never the same after that game, and unfortunately, that kind of led to the demise and Johnny ultimately not coming back for us.
Yeah, I mean, that really was kind of the beginning of the end for that. I mean, it was so abrupt, too. I know he'd kind of fallen out, but after that, I don't know if he played more than maybe a couple of minutes, maybe one more appearance the rest of the season. But he's over in, I'd say, greener pastures right now. The Galaxy not playing as much, obviously, because they've been pretty okay to start the season. So Chicago, I will give some credit to them, had a good offseason, offloading some big talent that didn't necessarily deliver and bringing in some known talents. So the first two that I'll mention here are Kellen Acosta. Kellen is well known in the U.S. men's national team circle, was one of the biggest free agents this summer. Midfielder, eats up a lot of minutes, contributes defensively a lot. I'd say he's probably one of our depth sixes in the U.S. men's national team rotation, probably on his way out, but he's still one of the better players in that position in the MLS. Number 6, I'd say even floating into number 8 sometimes. Hugo, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but Hugo Kuipers is the current Golden Boot winner from the Belgian top flight, and they went out and signed him for an incoming transfer record of 12 million, could rise to 14 with add-ons. So he was brought in to be their DP striker, their man in front of the goal, just absolutely plugging him in. So hasn't necessarily been the case so far this season. They also went out and acquired Andrew Grootman, who was one-time homegrown target to return to his boyhood team here. And they also went on and got Tobias Sahlquist, a new center back partner for their current kind of center back setup. So a lot of good incomings.
Yeah, I would say. And then they also had a couple outgoings, as you already mentioned. Ousmane Doumbia is a defensive midfielder, just arrived last summer on loan from the Swiss Super League. And he was the DP purchase option, and that was not exercised at the end of the year. Giaro Torres, Chicago and Torres reached a mutual contract termination, ending his supporting 2 seasons in the MLS for the Mexican winger. He opened up the DP roster spot as well. He failed to score in 36 matches after commanding a reported $6 million transfer fee, which is just an absolute bank robbery.
And they also got rid of Kai Kamara, who's a legendary, MLS striker, and Miguel Navarro as well, a left back for them, who moved on, I believe, to the Colorado Rapids. This year, we talked a little bit about it already with Chicago, but Chicago's 2-5-4 win-loss draw, sitting 13th in the East with 10 points. 2-3-1 at home, 0-2-3 on the road, 11 goals for, which is the 4th least in the league, and 19 against, which is the 4th most in the league. So they're kind of, on the opposite sides, but on the wrong side on both.
Exactly. And I would say some of the key results that we look at in this first one, I was like, oh, they opened their season with a 2-2 draw versus Philly. I'm like, solid. I think in one of these games, help me remember which one it was, Jake, the Kellen Acosta goal where he, like the wind, like it was like the Windy City goal. He just basically tried to lump one up the field and it got caught up in like the high. And I think someone went back and looked. It was like right at that exact moment was the highest gust of wind across the country. And it pushed the goal in for them. A 2-1 loss versus Cincy, a 2-1 loss at Columbus. And then recently just lost 1-0 to the Revolution on Saturday. The Revolution are tied for last in the MLS and have the worst goal differential of -11. So Chicago's kind of limping right now. And another thing I will note, Jake, not even just looking at that, Chicago has not scored in their last 4 games or 5 of their last 6. And I will say 4 of those last 6 were at home as well. And they just have not been scoring goals. So in the last 3 games, we're specifically at home and have not scored. And then the game before, they did not score at the Red Bulls.
So who have their top performers been this season? I would say number 1 on my list that I would love to have a guy like this on the team. They have a homegrown 20-year-old in Brian Gutierrez, who's a central midfielder for them. He has been with the Fire since 2020. I mean, really, I feel like caught his stride, not in this past season, but the season prior. And he's kind of put Shaqiri on notice. I mean, that's kind of Shaqiri's position, playing in the number 10, but that's really been claimed by Gutierrez for the most part. They tried playing both at the same time sometimes last season, didn't necessarily work out. This season so far, he started 7 of their matches, 3 goals, 1 assist in those 10 games total that he's played. And he's the second most shots on the team behind the newly acquired striker that we already mentioned. Fabian Herbers is a 30-year-old German striker. And he started with the Union in 2016, has been with the Fire for the past 6 seasons with 4 goals and 3 assists last season. So not huge output, but this season he's coming along quite nicely with 2 goals and 2 assists. Started all 11 games so far this season, has played all but 26 minutes, but he's been pretty cold as of recently. That those numbers kind of came in the first couple of matches. I would be highly shocked if he didn't start against us.
Yeah, I mean, the entire team's been a little cold, but another guy to mention and one of the highest paid players, the third highest paid player back in September 2023, the last time that they had those come out, is Shaqiri, 32-year-old from Switzerland, midfielder, 5'7", 160, short little stubby guy. But he comes with a lot of accolades. 2-time Champions League winner with Liverpool and Bayern, 3-time German champion, 1-time Premier League champion, 112 appearances with Swiss men's national team. Jake, this sounds very similar to a guy that we were just talking about. Marco Reus is 34 and has a lot of the similar accolades. I will say Shaqiri maybe a little bit underperforming last season, but he has 5 goals and 5 assists last season. And so he's sticking with that pace already with 2 goals and 2 assists in 9 games played, only starting 7 of them.
Yeah, they're just trying to, I feel like, just suck out as much value out of him as possible. And I agree, the stats in terms of achievements, pretty close to Marco Reus. I would say Marco Reus and his teams have played more of a prominent role in those, whereas Shaqiri's been more of a cog in that system, but still a very, very talented player on his day. He is still the third highest paid player in the league, making 7.3 mil a season right now. So he's under Messi and Insigne, and he's right above Herrera and Benteke. So those are the top 5 in terms of earnings. Honorable mentions, we talked about Hugo Kuipers, the new striker they went out and got. Again, not having the hottest start to the season like they would have expected. Fun fact, he's top 5 in aerial duels won. So he's a big target striker. He can get up and win those balls. We talked about Kellen Costa, being the team general in midfield. Chris Brady is their goalkeeper, a young American. He has the 3rd most goals against with 18, but the 4th most saves with 40. So Chicago defense is doing nothing to help this man. But Justin, we did not mention the most famous player on this roster.
Mr. Tom Barlow, dog. So he's had 9 games played so far this season, 0 starts. I think that's rude of them considering the season he just had coming off with the New York Red Bulls. He's averaging about 15 minutes per game. I will say not all of those are just like blowouts. Like Tom is a player that can create chances and shots and goals, and it shows. He's the best XG and shots on target created per 90 minutes on the team right now. So when Tom gets in there, if you guys haven't watched Tom play before, so the reason we're talking about this, Tom goes way back from St. Louis, went to Chaminade, played Gallagher with him. Then he went to Wisconsin and then got drafted by the Red Bulls and is now with the Chicago Fire. But Tom is lightning in a bottle, I would say. Tom is probably 6 foot, 175 beefcake, and he can just absolute run by you and has a lethal shot once he gets a chance as well. I cannot wait to see Tom on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, I used to carpool with him to practice. I mean, we grew up pretty close proximity to their family. And I just remember, I mean, from a very young age, you always knew that this dude was just special. So it's cool to see him show out on the biggest stage and play with the likes of Shaqiri's. I mean, this guy has won huge things, and Tom Barlow was at practice, rubbing shoulders with this guy.
If you didn't see it last year, he dapped up Messi after the game when they were down in Miami too. Like Tom is absolutely, and that was when Tom was starting and playing full 90s for the Red Bull as well. I think there's the system that's going on in Chicago right now. Another guy that's out there is Chris Mueller, who Tom actually was in the same class in, I believe, at Wisconsin. So they have a couple different options up top, and I think that's where Tom hasn't found a consistent starting spot. But obviously, getting into 9 games, they think highly of him and need his ability to score, and he can create chances.
Agreed. So hoping to see a good extended cameo for him. It'll be cool to have a nice homecoming for Tom and family, who I'm sure will all be in attendance given they're all still here. So who's the head coach for Chicago? So I think, Justin, we played Chicago, if I'm not mistaken, last year when they were in the middle of the change, when they were firing or had just fired Ezra Hendrickson, I believe it was the coach, and they brought in on an interim basis Frank Klopas. So Frank Klopas had coached them before, back in 2011 to 2013, then coached for the Impact 2013 to 15, and then he was brought back as an assistant in 2020, and then he went from interim to now getting the full-time tag this past offseason. He likes to play a 4-4-2 or a 4-2-3-1, so I'd say similar in setup to us in terms of the style or the formation. Style-wise, I'm just looking at highlights, Justin. I've watched some time of some of their games, admittedly not as much as I would like to, but from what I can gather, this team likes to cross the ball a lot. They like to try to get in behind a lot with speedy wingers and their new striker. They play with a lot of width as well. Defensively, they usually look to put on some sort of a mid block where you find the most amount of their tackles and the most amount of their aggression on the field kind of comes around the 50 or midfield, I guess 60 when you think about soccer. So it's kind of all around the midfield. If you can break those lines, though, looking at the defense, it's the strategy for me is get the ball to their talented players, which are mostly loaded from the midfield and up. And then if you break the lines and you get to the defense, it's let's cross our fingers and hope this works out. And if it doesn't, maybe Chris Brady might save us. That's the strategy that I see from Chicago. They've been, obviously not cruising so far this season. I think they've really struggled to kind of find even their own identity. And I hope they don't find it here at home.
No, and I will say they definitely are really hoping that Chris Brady saved them. And I feel like he has a decent amount of times, but obviously letting up 19 goals is what is the 4th most in the MLS currently. That is one thing that he has not been able to save them as much as needed. I will say key injuries real quick, Jake, before we get to trends and storylines. Marin Hali Salasi is a right winger. He was the leading scorer from last season with 6. He's also going to be out during this game. And then Tobias Salquist. He's a center back. He's a new transfer, meant for the starting 11 from the Danish Superliga.
So some big injuries there. We'll see if anyone comes, healthy before then. I doubt it. So Chicago in general, looking at kind of trends and storylines, Justin, last 5 away matches for them are draw, loss, draw, loss, draw. So no 3-pointers in there. They're on a 0.67 points per match pace in away games with a -4 goal differential. Some of their strengths as a team we've already talked about, but chance creation from through balls, they're good when they're coming from behind and trying to get points from losing positions. And once they have a lead, they've been known to be okay protecting it. And they're a good team in terms of aggression, looking at aerial duels. Offensively, you've kind of spoiled some of this because of some of their stats. You can just see it in the underlying things. But XG, 1.13 per 90. That puts them at 26th in the league. They're only scoring 1 goal a game right now, which is tied for the 3rd last. And it actually gets worse when you look away, which isn't unexpected, but only a 0.96 XG away, which puts them in the bottom 5 and averaging 13 minutes per goal scored away from home.
Yeah, I will say, and then more specifically, their goals for come with 45% of them from the 76 to 90, so the last 15 minutes of the game. They're bottom 10 in shots on target, and shots on target percentage. They're tied for the 3rd least amount of goals in open plays. But this is a team, and you look at that, it's a complete opposite of what I would say with Houston. Their average passes are mostly short and medium, but they are not a high possession team. And they are number 5 in through balls, number 4 in crosses, number 2 in swinging corner kicks as well. And I will say a lot of this, more specifically, Jake, is a more direct attack. It's not something that we're going to see it kind of swing back and forth. Like you already said, they're going to try to get it up to their main guys, do a 1-2 up back through, and put these guys through, whip a ball in, and look for a finish.
No, absolutely. And the last thing I'll call out there is set pieces. They're the last in XG created on set pieces. They've only had 1 goal scored on set pieces so far. So I don't see that as posing us too much threat, which is good because our defense has not been great on set pieces. Defensively for them, they're allowing 1.69 expected goals against per 90, which is the 3rd worst in the league. And actual goals against 1.73 per 90, which is the bottom 10 in the league. Away form, it gets worse. 1.85 expected goals against, which is the 2nd worst in the league. And they're allowing a goal away from home every 56 minutes. When those are typically coming is around the 61st to 75th, which is about 1/3 of their goals against, and the 31st to 45th, which is about 1/4 of their goals against. So, at the really end of the first half and kind of the middle of the second half is when this team seems to be most susceptible.
And we've talked about it when it gets to their defense, they're basically relying on Brady to save them because they're 3rd most in shots on target against when you look at that in the MLS, which is an awful stat to have because you're really relying on your goalkeeper there. In open play, they have the 5th most shots conceded, number 4 in the XGA, and 2nd most goals allowed as well. Set pieces, 4th worst in shots allowed and XGA there as well. So it's not even like it's just an open play thing with these guys. They're letting up a lot of fouls and then also in-swinging free kicks and just shots, not even crosses looking around there. They're top 10 in tackles, though, number 2 in the middll third. So I would say a lot of that, Jake, has got to be Kellen Acosta, that guy that kind of manages the midfield for them. If you want to make a comparison for him, he's their Leuven for us. I would say he will be a guy that you'll see probably getting a lot of the touches in the midfield.
Yeah, he's definitely a leader for that team, their general. And the only other fun things I want to mention before I get to Chris Brady is they were top 10 in blocked passes and shots. They do find a way to get into those lanes and block those. And they're number 1 in high turnovers created. So you got to be wary if you're our center backs or our midfield about giving the ball up in dangerous positions because this team will take it from you. Chris Brady, like we mentioned, has the 3rd most saves in the league. He's faced the 5th most post-shot XG, which is really just expected goals plus the on-target element of that. So he's been put under a lot of pressure. And so far, I think he's been okay with a plus 1.6 post-shot XG minus goals against, suggesting that he's performing pretty much slightly above average. I do consider him to be a pretty solid goaltender in the league. So keys to the game, Justin, as we've now heard about the opponent, what comes to your mind? I think the first thing for me is obvious. Set pieces, attacking for us. This is a big weakness for Chicago and a huge strength of ours. We have the 9th best set piece expected goals in the MLS right now. We've scored a good amount of goals from set pieces. I think this is one, if it wasn't my goal for the day, which it's not, it's my 2nd goal for the day. I think we could definitely score on a set piece.
Yeah, absolutely. I think when you look at that and we look at about the size of the guys, we'll talk about starting 11s and everything, but Tim Parker is going to be in there. Joao Klaus is likely to be in there. If it's not, it's Sam Adeniran. One of these guys needs to get their head on it and win one of these goals. Defending the through ball is going to be another one, Jake. I would say Chicago plays the 5th most through balls per 90. And I think the biggest thing there is making sure we're not ball watching and we need to communicate. I think we've seen a couple of guys slip through between Hebert and Parker, not only in the most recent games, but also throughout the season. And then we talked about Koenig getting his hips turned incorrectly or maybe Totland being too far up the field. That's going to expose us for through balls. And if Tom is in there, I promise you, he will blow by Hebert and Tim Parker and will finish on Mr. Roman Berkey. So making sure that we're not ball watching and communicating across the back line is going to be key.
Yeah, that one worries me a little bit. Yeah, because I think if we had Yarrow available for selection, I think this might be a game for Yarrow because he has more of that recovery speed, and that's what we're kind of going to need in this game. So that one worries me a little bit, but we're aware of it, so hopefully they are as well, or we can shoot them a quick email with our notes.
I would say also a quick thing to touch on there, Jake, and we've seen it a couple times this season, but not as much as last season. Sweeper keeper Berkey. Yep. I think this is going to be a big game for him, and looking at making sure that if he sees the through ball, he's going to be kind of on his toes already at the top of the 18, if not already higher up the field. And he's not going to get beat over his head. That only happened one time last year, and I remember it back in Austin, the first game of the season when he got chipped. We will not see that again in this game.
Yeah, no, I agree. Final 2 things I want to mention here, Justin, before our goals are, I think we just got to continue again to maintain our game, and that's keeping the press. This is not a team that's very comfortable in possession. I do think we'll have more of the possession in this game, but for the possession that we do give or allow Chicago, you got to make it hell for these guys. They have shown that they are vulnerable in those positions. So make sure that we, are down their throats. They are a team that's made the 2nd most errors in possession leading to an opponent's shot. I have no doubt that we can make that number explode in this game. The final thing I want to say is We talked about chance creation, how that's come a little bit of a way for us this season, but last, game not being great, having anything on target, the quality of our chances. I don't want us to rush these. We're going to get some in this game. We have the lowest non-penalty XG per shot right now at 0.08, meaning that we take the crappiest chances in the MLS, the lowest quality chances. So I don't want this team to get, into that position and just get flustered. If there's a pass to be had to even open up a better chance, let's make that. Let's take this game to really, I think, learn from and practice and put this into play, because I do think we're going to have more chances against Chicago. They're not a great defensive team. So let's create high quality chances and up the chances for Klaus or Durkin late arriving into the box, or Indy or Alm, whoever that is that's on the end of that, to give them the best chance they can to score. And then it falls onto their shoulders. Those guys are just got to be able to put it back in that.
Yep, absolutely. And I would say, so specifically, the one key to the game or the goal for me, Jake, is to score at least 2 goals. That's usually my bet. We'll talk about bets later, but this is a team where I think we've been talking about it. We've been waiting for our team to actually come up and finally finish a couple of these chances or get these shots on net from Klaus. This needs to happen in this game against one of the worst defensive teams in the league before we go into LAFC on Wednesday, then at Cincy. If we're going to try to get back on pace and get a rhythm, it's got to start with this game. So scoring at least 2 goals, I think, is mine. And also, if we score 2 goals, I'll find that stat. I don't think we've ever lost a game where we scored 2 goals.
I don't know about lost. Yeah. No, that's a good call. Look that up. My goal is to get a goal in the first half. I think if you get a goal in the first half, especially just scoring first period, I think we're going to be playing a lot better, a lot more freely with that, and you're going to put Chicago under some serious pressure. So before we move into the Hoffman Brothers starting 11, Justin, I do want to detail my experience about having them out here for the tune-up. Just a reminder for you all, I am a home protection plan member with Hoffman Brothers, meaning that I get some seriously cool perks for having that. And they are, I get a tune-up for basically 2 free a year, no charge. I'm having these guys come out, and they were out here for a couple of hours, doing diagnostic tests on my ducts and on my AC, especially as we get closer to the heat of the summer here. So I was excited about that. And they give you true value for that. I mean, so I also got basically full invoices for different pieces of work that could be done to improve. For me, our upstairs gets super hot in the summer, and we have 2 different ACs, and so one of them doesn't work as well. So I learned there that it's my duct work. Actually, it's not the unit that's the problem. And so Carter, shout out to Carter, was the guy, the technician out here helping do the work. Literally took the time to do owning a home for dummies for me and actually explain what it is that's wrong with certain components of our cooling system here, and gave me different quotes for different flavors of what I might want to try to do to make it better, or to, make a longer lasting life for some of these, devices that we have here in the house. So I really appreciated him taking the time to do that. And they were here for, like I said, a couple hours, sent me all the quotes and discounted pricing for 30 days if I'm able to accept any of those, which I'm absolutely going to. So I had an amazing tune-up with them, and I'll have them back again before I flip the furnace back on when it gets eerily cold out here in St. Louis. So I have nothing but amazing things to say about Carter and the whole team at Hoffman Brothers. It was a great tune-up, and I feel like I learned a little bit.
That's absolutely awesome, because I know absolutely nothing. So if anybody also feels like you know nothing and you're going to feel done calling, don't. These guys are extremely polite. They're going to come out. They're going to help you. They're going to tell you everything you need to know. It's not like going to get your car repaired and you're like, oh, you need to get your brakes fixed. Like, no, these guys are true. They will stick to their word, and they'll give you a discount while doing it.
And now on to the Hoffman Brothers starting 11. Nothing real exciting here, Justin. I'm just going to be honest. I have the same lineup heading into this one. I know that we have Nilsson back. We saw him get a couple minutes. I still don't think you're going to just throw him into this game. I think Hebert's quicker than Nilsson as well. So I'm fine with that, given some of the through ball threat they carry. I know that Leuven and Blum are back practicing with the full team. I expect them to maybe be on the roster on the 18 heading into this, depending on how things are going, maybe getting some minutes here and there. But I still expect Durkin and Ostrak to be my midfield 2, followed up by Celio Indy Alm on my 3, and then Klaus up top. I'm not seeing many changes that I see are warranted. What do you think?
I'm going to go back. I'm actually going to put Nilsson in there as center back. I think this is a good game to get him tuned up for what's upcoming, and maybe he won't get the full 90, but I think he's healthy now, and that rib should be completely fine. So I'm going to throw him back in there next to Parker. I'll go with Durkin and Ostrak as well. I don't know if if we're going to see Blum or Leuven or what the timeline is more on that. So let's play it safe right now for a starting 11 because you don't want those guys to go in, get injured, and then we have to use a sub in the 20th minute, or you re-injure something and have to wait another couple of weeks. So I don't think this is the game for those guys to hop in, at least not in a starting position. Celio, Indy, Alm, intriguing for me because I thought AZ actually played really well last game. And knowing that we have a game on Wednesday against LAFC, you could see a little bit of a change up in this game. If we don't see it here, we're going to see it Wednesday. So I'm actually going to say that we're going to go Celio, AZ, Indy, and then with Klaus up top.
I like
putting AZ underneath the Klaus.
Okay. I mean, I wouldn't be mad at that either. Again, this game for me is one that you're going to have chances. I don't know who's going to get us there, but whoever's the one that's going to be the hero for us in the day, I am good with. But it's a tougher job, I think, when you've had this consistency heading into it, but you have some pretty high quality coming onto the bench now. So we'll see what Cornell elects to do for this match. Justin, I'd be remiss if we didn't mention another sponsor for us this year in Soul Juice. We had some exciting conversations with Luis earlier in the week, which we'll keep you all tuned in on. But long story short for you all, keep doing what you're doing. Go to your Costco's locally here in St. Louis. Make sure that you're asking about Soul Juice getting there. He's expanding all over the states in all the Costco's. At Schnucks right now, you can get 2 Soul Juices for $4, which is a great deal. And make sure that if it's not priced there, that you go and ask for it because we'll make sure that you can get that. He has all the on the runs now. So if you're out and about and you want to grab some Soul Juice, go out and grab it too. It's crazy to see the footprint they're starting to gain here.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Luis has been blowing up, and it's been hard to get a hold of him just a couple times solely because he is flying all over, because he's a guy that is not just going to say, oh, we're opened up in Costco's on the East Coast, go take care of it. He's there in person and going all over for this. So we really appreciate everything that he's been doing. Saw it at Mobile on the Run already in St. Louis. Go to Schnucks, Dearborg's, Costco, wherever you get your groceries. And then go to go to souljuice.com using code BALLWATCHING for 20% off for those deliveries as well. Jake, I did want to mention, when we've scored 2 goals, the double chances hit 100% of the time. We have 19 wins, 0 losses, and 5 draws.
Like it. Okay, well, so you're getting us right into it, Justin. Predictions and Grahammer time. City's at -140 money line right now. Chicago at +300 in the draw at +290. Over-under is set at 2.5. Back on this one. A little more normal, I'd say this one, with a -165 on the over and a under 2.5 at +125. I had to do a little more digging on this one, Justin, because I was a little bit tempted to go money line at first, but I just feel like that's boring at this point. We maybe only taken that once this season. So I'm going to go out on a limb here a little bit, and I'm going to go City on the spread of -1.5. So I'm taking an alternate spread. That's not the true spread in this game, but City -1.5. So City to win by 2 is +190, and that is my Grahammer.
All right, I like that. I'm going to go out on a little bit of a limb as well because all of this is pretty juicy. When you look at it, if we wanted to go my typical City to score over 1.5, which I've already hammered, and is now my biggest bet of the MLS season for City. It's now at -155. When we talked about it on Sunday, it was -135. That has continued to go up. Take it now if you can get it. So I already have that. But as far as me and your little betting thing goes back and forth, it has to be better than -150. So, and you can't do same game parlays on ESPN right now. So I'm taking City to score over 2.5 as my Grahammer at +210. We're going to score 3 goals in this game.
Oh, it's gone to your head, Justin. Have we scored 3 goals in more than one game this year? Because I can only think of the LA Galaxy.
I highly doubt it. And that's my prediction, is that we're going to win 3-1.
Oh, okay. I love it. Look at this. The guy hits the Houston shutout, and now he's got this confidence just flowing.
I'm trying to put you in the absolute ground, Jake. I'm going to hit this back to back. And I mean, yours would hit as well if it's a 3-1 game. But right. And I don't see us giving up 2 goals. So I think we both hit if we score 3 goals here. But I just think that I've already talked about it. I think this is one that we need to blow up. And if we want to get back on track offensively, this is the game to do it. One of the worst offenses. It's going to be 77 degrees in St. Louis on a Saturday night. St. Louis's very own is going to be on the field. Tom Barlow. Why not just absolutely blow it up? Let's score 3 or 4 goals.
So just to recap for you all, I was a 2-0 W prediction. Justin was 3-1. I'm taking City -1.5, so City to win by 2 at +190. And Justin's taking City's team total of over 2.5. And what was the odds there again, Justin? +210?
+210.
Whew. All right. So there is some money and happiness to be had here on Saturday evening as Chicago Fire come to visit St. Louis.
And Jake, we've scored 3 goals twice this season, LA and Sporting Kansas City.
Yeah, Sporting. Yep.
And I will say both of those were away. There's no reason why we can't do it at home.
And you and I have talked about it. Powder keg offense right now. We're bound to just blow up one of these games. Could this be the weekend? I think it might have to be, given some of the difficult opponents coming up. And by the way, I do want to mention this. We talk about being okay with road points. This is the other side of that. You have to win games at home. You can't get the road points and be fine with 1 or 0 on the road when you're not winning games at home. We haven't been exceptional at home yet so far this season. So we have to get going in the right direction here as well.
Jake, you said powder keg. We need to make one of those like videos. I'm thinking literally like the Road Runner, where you have like the spark going all the way to the powder keg, and that's where Chicago is. Game time blows up. City Park's going to go absolutely nuts. Could see a TIFO even. Get out there, and if you're going to be downtown, get to the pitch. My entire family is going to the game on Saturday. A ton of Tom's family's going. We're going to get a lot of the old SLSG boys out there as well. Try to meet up with him after the game. I'm going to be at the pitch before and after the game. Get there. Come say hi. Go celebrate a frozen Irish coffee on a nice spring day. If you don't drink, they have plenty of great food and sodas for everybody to enjoy. Family friendly.
Amen. And for the last bit of things before we close out here, first of all, if you listen to us on YouTube or on Apple or on Spotify, make sure you leave us a rating, a review, or a comment on YouTube, whatever. Make sure you like the video. Again, we want this to get out to as many people that are like-minded or even different-minded, have different takes, that like soccer, like the club, like to hear more about this stuff. But I want to give a shout out to Bert Weezy on Apple Podcasts, who left us a review. We have not gotten one in months, Justin, but this is last week. He gave us 5 stars. Thank you, Bert Weezy. And he said, here's the deal. These guys are really on the pulse of our beloved STL City SC. They are extremely relatable and very intelligent. My absolute go-to for the insider info and for the breakdowns of all things City SC. Highly recommend all their content. Bert, first of all, I love you. That was an incredible bit of reviewing us. I'm heartwarmed by the sentiment there, and I'm glad that we made your experience supporting this team better. And for you all that aren't tuned in yet, or you want to send this to friends, family, whoever it is, hopefully they're all having the same experience.
Yeah, smack that like button, smack that subscribe button. I feel like we haven't been good about promoting ourselves this year. Been doing great on the social media presence, and I would say if you guys have any insights or anything that you would like for us to change, we've had a couple of people send us texts or write reviews or DMs. We appreciate it. I think we're going to be spending a little bit more money here on the sound and audio quality as well, and looking at the video sense of things, and have a couple different ideas for the summer. So let us know if you guys have ideas or anything you'd like us to change.
Amen, Justin. Well, that rounds us out for the City versus Chicago Fire home fixture and preview for us. We'll be back with you all. It is Mother's Day weekend, and we're also looking at down the barrel of a recap/preview show as well. So bear with us on the timing here. Could be Sunday evening, could be Monday. We'll see, but don't you worry. We'll be there for you. You will have your episode. You will have your content and be feeding for it. So hope you all have a great rest of the week and Mother's Day weekend as well. Make sure you show love to all those mothers out there. They deserve it. And in the meantime, Justin, all for City and all for mothers.
All for City and all